Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, and Jed York have all spoken at the NFL's owners meeting. So we're going to take a look at some of the comments that they have made about Brock Purdy, about their offseason plan, the roster construction, all of those different types of things, and kind of give our pretty much our reaction to it. There's a couple things that stood out to me, specifically the most about what Jed York had to say about the Brock Purdy contract negotiation and where that might currently stand. But hey, we got a lot of talk about it. It's the most we've heard from these guys since the exit interview. We've obviously heard from John Lynch at the NFL Combine. Also, I will be telling you who will be joining us on the channel tomorrow. Obviously, if you were here on Monday, we had Oluwafemi Oladejo on the channel for a great interview. If you missed that, you can go check it out. But we're also going to have another prospect who I'm very high on the channel. So I'm excited about that. But let's get into it all. But you guys already know what to do. Drop an SDS in the chat. Smash that like button because we already got one of my haters lurking around downvoting this video. So smash that like button, drop an SDS in the chat, and let's get into it all right now. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. What is going down, gang? Hopefully you guys are having a good Tuesday. Happy April Fools to you. Hopefully you didn't get got by any of the fake news out there, any of the reports that have, been meant to, I don't know, whatever. But anyways, clearly some stuff going on with the San Francisco 49ers. Being able to hear Jed York speak, Kyle Shanahan speak, John Lynch speak, especially talking about the whole kind of off-season plan. I thought the most interesting comments came from Jed York, to be honest. I thought Jed was, I don't know. I feel like at the owners' meetings every year, the 49ers are dealing with some kind of high-profile negotiation, right? So we've heard them talk under these set of circumstances multiple times. But I did find it rather interesting that there were two main elements that related back to Brock Purdy. One being that the 49ers kind of whole offseason plan of not retaining guys, of letting a lot of players leave, not really signing any big name free agents or anything, really came down to the fact that it's because the 49ers have to pay the quarterback. They're getting prepared for it. They're getting ready for a big contract to be paid out to Brock Purdy. And as we know, it's well documented that is going on. But I did find it interesting that he said a big reason for why they didn't really make these moves really came down to the fact that that's what they're preparing for. They're preparing to pay Brock. So in a roundabout way, it's almost like, well, Brock is then responsible for this offseason. Right? I think you get what I'm saying. Basically saying, oh, well, we cut Leonard Floyd, we cut Malik Collins because of Brock, because Brock is going to get paid. And, I don't know about all that. But I did find that to be interesting. And then, not only that, he did mention that the ball is basically in Brock Purdy's court. Basically saying that when Brock let me pull the exact quote. I don't want to misquote our owner of the San Francisco 49ers. But effectively said that the ball's pretty much in his court. He says, I don't negotiate contracts, but any conversations I've had with Brock personally have been great. I feel good. And when he's ready, we'll sit down and finish it. It shouldn't be that hard to do. I was like, oh, when he's ready, shouldn't be that hard to do. Based on based on what parameters? So I don't know. I was like, oh, does Jed York have contract negotiation fatigue, just like the rest of us? I think so. I think so. I think that's fair. Um, I would say the whole off season is probably emblematic of contract negotiation fatigue. Um, just over the last couple years, obviously, there's been a clear change in spending, a clear deviation of going all in because they have to pay the quarterback. So again, very interesting when he says that it's basically on Brock. When he's ready, we'll sit down and finish it. So to me, I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. Um, so I don't know. I really don't know. Again, anything can happen during these negotiations. If there's anything we've learned from covering the San Francisco 49ers. So I don't know. I'm in wait and see mode. I found those comments to be pretty interesting considering the context. When Kyle was asked about it, I mean, I thought Kyle's interview today was pretty straightforward. There wasn't really anything that stood out to me that Kyle had said one way or the other. Obviously, he talked about not wanting Brock to hold out. No one really wants Brock to hold out. And when it comes to the Brock Purdy situation, all of them spoke very highly of being, at least having an optimistic tone that a deal was going to get done, something was going to get done. So, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with the tone of the conversation. But just like we said in the exit interviews, and that has been re-referenced in these owners meetings when talking to these guys, is that would love to get that deal done before OTAs and mandatory minicamp. Right after the draft, that would be great. That would be phenomenal. So we can put all of that stuff behind us, put the negotiation in the rear view mirror, and don't let it seep into the 2025 season. I think every single human who either calls themselves a fan of the San Francisco 49ers, who probably works for the San Francisco 49ers, does not want to see a quarterback holdout, because we've had enough negotiation shenanigans over the years. Hence why we're talking about contract fatigue, but it is what it is. Again, it's not really anything crazy. At the end of the day, I just find it interesting that when you listen to other people talk for a living, and then you try to diagnose the like, what did he really mean? What did he really say? Those were the two things that really stood out to me from this whole owners meeting thing, was the two comments from Jed York. Other than that, I think some of the news to come out today, and we'll get to all of it, but I'm curious to know how you guys feel about the Jake Moody competition that is coming to Santa Clara in 2025. Jake Moody is no longer the unquestioned 49ers starting kicker. He is going to be a guy that will have to compete against a veteran. So, Jake Moody, he's still on the roster, but he is officially on the clock. And this is exactly what Kyle Shanahan had to say. He said, yeah, we're going to bring someone else in. I know we weren't going to go out and sign a guy right away in free agency, but I know Brant Boyer and Cole Anderson are looking into some kickers throughout all of these kicking camps, throughout the colleges and stuff. But we'd more likely add in a veteran and hopefully get him in here after draft time. As long as we bring in a guy who's capable of taking that job and Jake respects him, that's what puts pressure on him, because you've got to respect the guy you're going against, and he does have to beat him out in practice. Yeah, the games will happen once the season starts, but the preseason will be there. And when your job's on the line, doing something, going against someone who's talented, you do feel that pressure. And I do believe if he can overcome that and beat out a capable guy, that'll show us he's ready for the season. So, effectively, I think what Kyle is saying right there is Jake Moody does struggle with the pressure. That is the issue. He's dealing with the confidence issue. He's dealing with the pressure of it. And if he can beat out a veteran kicker who's capable of being a starting kicker, then that proves that he can handle the pressure of being the starting kicker for the San Francisco 49ers. So that's really my read on it. And they're probably going to bring someone in who has the potential to be the actual kicker next season. So there's a good chance that Jake Moody loses this job and doesn't make the roster. And if that is the case, that will be 2 of the 3 third-round draft picks from that draft class off the roster. So obviously the 49ers have to go in a different direction in this draft. They can't have the flexibility of just missing on picks. They have put themselves in a position where they have to rebuild their defensive line through the draft. They have to add a linebacker. They probably have to add another safety, maybe another cornerback. I mean, at every single level of the defense, they're going to have to draft someone. So, not an easy task for Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch heading into this one, but I'm sure it's a task that they are up for. And they will do whatever they can to get it done. We have a new coach kind of change that went on. Brian Fleury, who has been the tight end coach, is now the team's run game coordinator, which he's taken over from Chris Forster. So Kyle kind of made it sound like this is what Fleury's been doing for a couple years. It just becomes an official title change. Forster becomes assistant head coach. So just a little bit of a move here. But Kyle was very complimentary of Chris Forster. I mean, he loves him, and he's a good offensive line coach. So it is April 1st, though, which means we're waiting for a certain guarantee to kick in. And so as a result, we've had multiple guarantees kick in. Brandon Aiyuk and his 2025 roster trigger has went off, which signals that he will make over $22 million guaranteed in 2025. So Brandon Aiyuk, after all the trade talks and after all the stuff going on about the San Francisco 49ers, like basically sounding like they were ready to give Brandon Aiyuk away just for someone to take on his contract, he remains, he stays. It will be truly fascinating to see this whole situation play out. You know, I wonder how BA feels about that situation, being dangled out there in trade talks. And I don't know. But he's got to get healthy. And if he can return in the middle of the year, that could be a good thing for the San Francisco 49ers. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But if the 49ers have Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, Demarcus Robinson, Jacob Cowing, maybe draft another wide receiver, and then you get Brandon Aiyuk in the middle of the season, and let's say you're a couple games above 500, that's a pretty solid addition towards the end of the year. Now, if he does return in the middle of the year, I wouldn't expect he's to full speed until a couple weeks in. So realistically, if Brandon Aiyuk starts trending in the right direction, I would say the final third portion of the year, that could be a fantastic addition to get back, especially if the San Francisco 49ers have put themselves in a position to potentially make the playoffs, maybe win the division. That wouldn't be a bad weapon to get right as you're heating up to head into the playoffs. So we'll see how it goes. But there are other guys to get guaranteed money today. Yetur Gross-Matos got $3 million for 2025. Diamaro Lenore got 6.5 in 2025. Colton McKivitz got 2.2 in 2025. George Odom got $1 million. I actually thought Odom might be a cut because, you know, the 49ers are trying to save some money. So that seems like that's money they could have saved after signing two safeties in free agency. And Odom being primarily a special teams guy, but they opted to keep him. And then Bosa's guaranteed money kicked in for 2026. So all that hoopla about Brandon Aiyuk potentially getting traded is no more. So I mean, and I'm also pretty darn positive that Brandon Ayuk's 2026 is also guaranteed as well. So BA is here to stay. BA is here to stay. So we'll see how it goes. I just hope he can get healthy and can contribute. And if he can do that, then we're hyped. Because I think it's easy for some fans to forget how good Brandon Aiyuk is. When he's at the top of his game and he's doing what he does, one of the best wide receivers in the league. So we'll see what happens. we'll see what happens. Other than that, I think that was pretty much most of the stuff that went down. A lot of people talking about what Kyle Shanahan looked like. He looks like a distinguished gentleman. That's for sure. How old is Kyle these days? Kyle's not a spring chicken anymore. I think people keep talking about him like they still think he's 38 years old. I mean, he's 45. That's crazy. That's crazy. In 10 years, I'll be 45. I'm only 10 years away from good old Kyle. So, um, I think he looks good. He looks like what was that? Like Peaky Blinders kind of straight up. He looks like a mobster. He looks like hey, forget about it. He looks like he's gonna he looks like the guy just be chilling. Everyone else does the dirty work. He kind of just snaps his fingers and then guys come out of nowhere, take the guy out, pull him up. Um that's funny, man. That's funny. just snaps his fingers. All of a sudden, George Kittle and Trent Williams just come out of nowhere, take you away. But I would say I feel like Kyle has something to prove this year. I agree with this. I agree with this. You want to talk about locked in? Felt like Kyle was locked in. I think Kyle. I think I'm trying to put myself into his shoes. You're considered to be one of the top guys in the league. You're considered to be one of the most innovative minds in the league. You're considered to be Super Bowl favorite. You're considered all of these things. And then the year that you have comes crashing down and burning right in front of your eyes. Then there's clearly a new direction with how the 49ers are operating from a spending perspective. And it just feels like he understands that this is a big year. It's a big year. And if the 49ers spin out like they did previously, who knows what that means for him and his future. But, you don't want to be. I think the way Kyle speaks about his dad and either getting fired or let go or having to move around and do all these different types of things, I think I'm wondering if he's kind of sensing that for himself. I'm wondering if he's kind of sensing like, oh, for the first time in my head coaching career, maybe the future isn't fully guaranteed. Maybe like what I do this year really has an impact if I'm going to be sticking around here or not. Now, again, I'm not saying that he's going into this season on the hot seat or anything like that, but I do feel like this is a very important year. I really do. I feel like this is a very important season for him to lead this team, to be able to put them back on track, regardless of what the roster says. So, you're a good coach. You're one of the best. You should be able to take rookies and plug them in with a franchise quarterback and a franchise running back and a franchise tight end and a franchise left tackle and a franchise defensive end and a franchise linebacker and a franchise cornerback and a young up and coming safety. And you should be able to plug those holes and you should be able to make it work. You got Robert Saleh as your defensive coordinator. You got Brant Boyer as your special teams guy. It's time to make it work. So I feel the urgency. That was kind of my takeaway from Kyle is he feels to me like he he's locked in. Oh yeah, he's locked in. Like his morning routine is probably on point right now. He's probably got the Saratoga bottles, getting right. Um, he feels like he's a little laser focused. Like all right, all right, all right. The shininess has maybe worn off a little bit. You know, that new car smell. It doesn't really smell like a new car anymore. Now it's kind of like, oh, I'm kind of thinking about buying a new car. And you're like, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. I used to be the new hotness. I used to be that guy. You can't be looking over your shoulder. I got to remind everyone who I am. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think anyone who does something at a high level, I think is faced with that at a certain point, right? Because there's ebbs and flows to everything. You have peaks and valleys. And sometimes, the peaks feel great, but it's the valleys where you learn. You really learn in those valleys. The valleys is where you really have to question yourself. You really have to evaluate yourself, self scout, be honest with yourself. Am I doing everything that I should be doing? Am I doing it the right way? Or where do I need to get better? And I kind of feel like last year was a valley, a deep, deep, deep valley. And I think he has got to pull this team out of it to prove to everyone that he can keep ascending. So again, yeah, there might be some added pressure this year. This might be the first time he's had real tangible pressure from ownership um, in his tenure with the 49ers. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I really don't. I really don't. So we'll see how it goes. Silent says players selected round 1. What would piss me off? Ooh, who would piss me off in the first round? A quarterback. Shador Sanders. Nothing against Shador. But if the 49ers drafted Shador Sanders at 11, we'd be like, what? So don't go quarterback. I feel like Shador and Kyle would oil and water. Oil and water. I don't feel like they would mix at all. He said Brad gets pissed off at draft picks. Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten angry at some of our recent draft picks. There's definitely been some picks that really kind of grinded my gears. So I'll say this, I don't think drafting Tyler Warren would piss me off. I would just say that I don't love it. I really don't. I wouldn't love the Tyler Warren pick. And I don't know if I'm setting myself up to eat my words, but it's not because I don't like Tyler Warren as a prospect. However, I don't know if he's necessarily a generational tight end. I think he's a really, 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 really good tight end. Brock Bowers to me was a generational tight end. I don't see Tyler Warren in that same tier. To me, he's a tier below. So although I think Warren is the most complete tight end in this class, blocker, receiver, all that stuff, and he'd probably be really, really good. I don't know if I would like the Tyler Warren pick. It would take a lot of me really convincing myself. It wouldn't be to the level of a Jake Moody type cope where I'm trying to convince myself we got a kicker in the third round. It makes sense. We filled a hole that we needed to plug. We got the best kicker in the league, coming out of the draft. It's kind of like that. I'm not comparing Tyler Warren to Jake Moody, but I'm kind of comparing Tyler Warren to Jake Moody. I feel like that's kind of how my brain is associating it, even though it's not the same. Other players, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't love that McMillan interview. That sounds like it was old and maybe it's taken out of context, but I'm not too familiar with McMillan the person, and I'll just say it didn't it didn't come across great. I guess maybe I'm a little bit more sensitive to it as someone who does interviews. So I would like if I was interviewing someone and the camera is right here and they are face this way eating food, not like engaging in the conversation, just kind of eating. I don't know how I would I get it. Like you got to do what you got to do, but I think that would come across to me like, all right, well, like we agreed to this. Like even with Oladejo, all right, this is how I know Oladejo is got good character. He had just gotten his food, just got his food, just set up. We're about to do the interview. He's like, he asked me, he's like, do you care if I eat doing this? And I'm like, well, I don't care. You can do whatever you want. Like, I'm just thankful that you came on the channel with me. Like, I don't, if you want to eat, like he just came from a workout, just grabbed food. I was like, man, you can do whatever you want. He's like, he was thinking about it. He was like, is that a good look? He's like, nah, it's not a good look. And I was like, all right, well, I'll tell you what. Take a bite. And then I said, I'm going to intro us. And then I'm going to throw up an intro video. And I said, when I throw up that intro video, take a couple bites. And he's like, all right, bet. And so I introed him. I threw the video up. I can see him in his little box on the like thing when the video comes up, and he's like, oh, he's like shoveling food into his mouth, and by the time the video came up, he was like, he swallowed it. He didn't look like he was eating. I was like, this guy's a professional, man. See, this is a guy who is courteous of other people, right? Like courteous of like and cognizant of the entire situation, not just like, oh, I'm hungry, I need to eat, which he's extremely valid in doing so. That was kind of like the difference in which I saw the Tet McMillan interview was like the opposite of that. Like, like, I'm just here talking, eating, don't really care about the interview. So I don't know, maybe I have a different perspective as an interviewer and kind of even just going through something with a prospect who was cognizant not to do that. I don't know. I didn't love the way he said it. So I don't know that much about McMillan. I haven't seen that many interviews from him, but that I'm not gonna lie, it kind of turned me off. I was like, ooh, hey, I don't know. Maybe that's why he's been dropping in the rankings. Maybe it has nothing to do with the film. Maybe it's a character issue. And that's always something that you really got to consider. So I don't know, something to keep in mind. I don't think I would like Kelvin Banks back to this conversation. My really long-winded answer. I don't know if I'd love Kelvin Banks at 18, because to me, you're drafting a guard or a guard at 11. I don't know if I love that. I would just trade back in that case. Yeah. There's not too many guys right now that I would be super upset with at 11. I feel like there's the potential just to have some really good players there, so I wouldn't be too upset. But I don't know if I'd like Kelvin Banks. I'd probably be like, what are we doing? Because he looks like a guard. But anyways. Good question, though. Good question. But let me tell you who I'm gonna have on the channel tomorrow. So tomorrow we will have another prospect, one of my favorites. So we are going to be having Cal linebacker Teddy Buchanan on the channel. So I'm really excited to have that interview go. I think that Teddy, I've mentioned it to you guys. I think he reminds me of Fred Warner, man. He reminds me of Fred so freaking much. And it was funny. I pulled up his numbers and I was like, damn, his numbers are even like comparable to Fred Warner. So I'm a big fan of Teddy, big fan of his game. He is a Sacramento State kid for 4 years, goes and plays 1 year of major college football. In my opinion, he balled out. So I'm real excited to have Teddy Buchanan on. You know, I don't know what the 49ers interest level is in him. But if they're looking for, you know, he's probably more of like a Sam linebacker. But I would love to see that guy on the San Francisco 49ers. So he'll be stopping by. We'll have Teddy Buchanan on for our next prospect talk. And that will be at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow. So keep your eye out for that. I'll probably make the link to the live probably tomorrow morning. And then I'll see you guys at 2 on that one. So I'm excited to talk to Teddy Buchanan, Cal linebacker. I think he's one of the most slept on players in this class right now. I don't know why people are sleeping on him, but they are. Oh, they are. And I would love for the 49ers to go into their backyard. I can't remember the last time they drafted a Cal player. I don't know if they're against it, but I hope not. Not with that one. So we'll see. But that's what we got cooking tomorrow. Appreciate everyone for tapping in on this one. All that good stuff. Y'all are the best. And we'll be back talking football with Teddy B. Let's go. Appreciate y'all. I'm out for now. Peace. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see